Now that the admin points are over, firstly, it's lovely to see everyone with us today. And for those of you I haven't met yet, I'm Renee and I'm a Client Success Manager here at Bamboom Cloud. For anyone that's new here, our aim here at Bamboom Cloud is to help organizations take the very best of the Microsoft Cloud to help them to transform and grow their businesses. Today's session will be focused around Dynamics 365 Business Central. Part of my role is to help to educate you on and understand what you already have access to within Business Central, along with how we can add extra components to it to benefit your organization through third-party apps, which we often refer to as ISV solutions. Today, and as like our other webinars, won't be a deep dive tech session, and we'll aim to keep this in a language which enables you to understand what the products can do for your business and how you can gain benefit from these features. Today's session will showcase some of the fantastic features which Clever Dynamics enables you to have access to within their great suite of apps. And I'm delighted to have Rena and Liam here with me today to introduce themselves and to explain more on these features.
Liam, do you want to go first?
Just to mute myself. Yeah, so thank you very much, as Renee said, for joining us. Really appreciate it. We are showcasing today a bundle of apps that we have. We bundled together 6 apps that over the years we've been working with Business Central that we've found there were some gaps or some lack of functionality that comes out of the main core product you get. We have grown out of a partner. We've worked with Bamboom for many years and have worked together on the opportunities that fit those guys. And we also have a bunch of customers, and we found over the 2 decades we've been working with Dynamics that our customers kept asking us, can we fill this gap? Can we do this and that, and over again? And so we productized those bits of functionality. And we then started talking to other partners that said they got the same gaps. And we said, well, look, we've got these products. How would you like to resell them? And so around about 6 or 7 years ago, we formed a sister company to our partner and called Clever Dynamics. And we launched with this bundle of apps that were called Clever Essentials. So they're things that we think 90% of Business Central users will find benefit from looking at. And we can deploy them very quickly. It's not something that's going to take you days and days and days to get them up and running. Most of these will be up and running within either a few minutes to a couple of hours. And we believe they'll add a great deal of functionality for very little cost. And so there's 6 individual apps that Rena's going to run through and take you through the product. So we'll dive into them. If anyone has any questions around what they can do that we don't cover, as Renee said, we can either pick them up in the Q&A or we can answer them afterwards. But I'll hand over to Rena that will run through the apps in a little bit more detail.
Hi guys, I'm Rena. I work obviously with the Clever Dynamics team, so I'll be going through the demo today. So I'll be going through, as Liam said, our Clever Essentials package. This package contains 6 apps which bridges the gap end to end for both the sales and the finance processes within Business Central. As we go through the apps, I'll point out areas where the apps kind of interlink with one another, making that end-to-end process very streamlined for your users so they have a smoother transition when they're going between one app and another. So when we talk about our essentials, our Clever Essentials apps, we look at kind of 6 keywords. We talk about enter, storing, finding, sending, printing, and chasing. All right. So these are the 6 apps that are in our Clever Essentials package. We've got Clever Data Validation, Clever Document Delivery, Print Node, Clever Credit, Global Search, and Clever Document Links. Each of them, as I said, kind of interlink with one another. Each of them are very simple but very effective when it comes to using those apps within your SaaS on-prem BC environment. So why choose Clever Essentials? So we always talk about working across multiple applications. We talk about it being costly. For upgrades, there's no prolonged downtime when it comes to that, and it improves the interactions that you have with your customers from start to finish. So I'm going to kind of jump right in there when it comes to our apps. So we'll start our journey with data validation. So I will kind of come out of the presentation and I will go into a SaaS environment. So hopefully everybody can see that here. So I've installed all of the 6 apps in here. We have our extension management. And as Liam said, super quick, super easy to install. All our apps are in there, and any dependencies that are required for those apps, those are installed as part of it. So with most of our apps, we have a clever config package, and with each of the apps, it means the downtime for installing them is super quick because we've already thought about how much setup is required for each of those apps and kind of pre-configured the apps to be able to deploy those rapid start packages. So it's quick and easy to use straight from installation. So we'll start our journey, as I said, with data validation. So data validation is about accurate data, making sure that your users get the master data right at the very beginning. We all know the story. We get to posting a sales order and there's some crucial data that's missing at the very beginning, especially around invoicing. It's generally business posting groups, general VAT posting group, something like that, which is always causing us issues. So we want to get that data right at the very beginning. And the templates created using this app make sure that that mandatory data is populated for each entity, preventing simple, avoidable errors later on down that processing route. So with data validation, I've created a very simple template. So we go to our setup, clever data validation, and I've created a customer details template. And all I'm telling this particular template to do is go through the customers and find where the credit limit is greater than 0 and where the email is missing. So based on my records that I select from my customer listing, it will validate the data against that template, and it will show me any customers where one or both of those bits of information are missing. So if I come out of this, and you will find the validate data on most of the core pages, so customers, vendors, items, there's the action on the page for you. So I'm going to highlight a few records rather than just the one. So we'll go select more. And it works on a basis of selecting the records. So it won't just search through the list. You have to tell it which records you want to validate that data for. Click validate data. And straight away, it gives me a list and a reason as to why. So against my template, I put error messages against what I wanted the users to show. So they understand what data is missing against which customer, and they can go into those core records and sort those data issues out straight away. So from the very beginning, we now have our core data sorted. So I'm going to take a particular customer, okay, and I'm going to use this customer throughout the system. So I'll make sure that I'm using this one when I'm demoing the other apps, and I'm going to set a credit limit. So I'm going to put it on for £50. I've got an email in there, which is perfectly fine. So I'm going to leave that in there, and I've now got my credit limit. If I was to run data validation again, it wouldn't come up in our list anymore because I've got that core data right from the very beginning. Against data validation templates, you also have the option to put filters on it. So you might select all your customers, but filter out those maybe in the US, the UK, or a particular field that you want to filter them on. You can also block your customers as well. So data validation means that core data is missing. We don't want that customer to then be put onto sales orders. We don't want those sales orders to be processed through and to get to that issue at the end again where we can't post it because core data is missing. So you have flexibility on how you use data validation, whether you use it for completely blocking off customers so that no processing can go through, or just as a way of tidying up your data to make sure it's better for those flows, for those processes later on. So we've started off our journey with data validation. We're now going to move on to document links. So document links is essentially linking a document to a record within Business Central. And there's a multitude of documents that you can link to records. You've got emails, images, spreadsheets, drawing, documents directly into Microsoft Dynamics Business Central. So it can be used in a number of different ways, and where the data is stored can also vary. So we have a few pages. We'll start with our document link setup page just to show you the options that you have available to you. So we talk about the two different places that you can store data. You've got file storage, which is on the database, or you can go as far as setting it up against SharePoint. So most of our customers do tend to have a SharePoint site. So you have, oh, apologies. So you have the option to say, okay, when I drag and drop those files, I want them to store in a SharePoint location. As soon as you select SharePoint, you have more settings to populate here. So you populate your URL, username, password, your libraries, etc. If I choose database, it's just going to store it against the database, and there's no requirement for any SharePoint setup. If you do click SharePoint, just test the SharePoint connection. It makes sure that your Business Central environment is talking to your SharePoint location and that those document links are going to be stored there. You also have the capabilities of using OCR settings. So this is where a document may have a barcode on it, and the barcode can be read to then be applied to one or multiple records within Business Central. And I'll show you that as we're going through the demo. So with document links, there's two different ways that you can drag and drop a record, a document, sorry, against a record. So we'll keep with our customer 10,000. And you'll see as soon as document links is installed, you've got this drop zone just here. So we can take any file, and I'll take this document just here. Oh, and I will drag and drop it in. And it is as simple as that. The document is being read, it's a PowerPoint presentation, and it has applied it now against this record. And as in particular posted documents work through the system, so sales order, posted shipment, posted invoices, those dropped files will also flow with it, so you don't lose that traceability. If you have a document that needs to go through to invoicing from sales order, that document will follow through with that record. So we have the first place where you can drag and drop a file. You also have the document links process page. So this is a page which most of our users feel slightly more comfortable in because it allows them to apply multiple documents to multiple records and visibly see that, rather than kind of the one-to-one relationship that we've just done through the demo. So if I go to our document links process page, it allows us to drag and drop multiple documents into here, see the visibility of those documents, but then also individually apply them. So if this one document needs to be put against multiple records, so I've put it against customer 10,000, but I also needed to put it against customer 20,000, for example, I have the option to do that. So I can go into here, go customer, and I can say I want it against here as well. So it's more of kind of a visibility screen rather than the drag and drop that you see on the pages or on the list views, because it allows you to see, okay, for this one document, I'm linking it to 2 records, I'm linking it to 10 records, and it allows you to see whether that has been attached yet or not. So we get kind of 2 different types of users. You get those that are simple, drag and drop, easy, dump it on the record, and you get those that kind of want to visually see, okay, which documents are going to be linked to which records before I actually action that out. But it also allows us to submit through OCR. Now, I will say that unfortunately my OCR setup hasn't been confirmed, but you can use Abby Fine Reader, and you get a free license from them where you can kind of demo, or you can kind of use the functionality from them. But what it basically allows us to do is, if I show you the document that I have. So I've got a barcode on here for item 1000. All I've done is I've gone to drag and drop it. You'd submit to OCR, and at that point it would tell you which records it can link it to. Could be one record or it could be multiple records depending on what your barcode is holding. I can tell you mine didn't work because no search value was found. So if it can't find something, it will tell you. So in this instance, because my setup wasn't correct or that my license had expired, it meant that it couldn't use Abby Fine Reader to be able to link that document to a particular record for me. But if it did, it would tell me which documents. By coming into here, I'd be able to see which ones it would link it to. I could then delete the ones that I didn't want it to link to, because it may find multiple ones, but in fact, we only want to link it to, say, item 1000. So we have, again, that flexibility to be able to say, okay, I want it to link to this, but I don't want it to link to this one, even though that information is held in the barcode. Once you're happy with any of your setup, so if I go into here, I'll link this one to a location, for example. And pending review, you have to select again the records. It's all about selecting, and then we say post selected. So it was pending review. Once I click post selected, that has now done what I need it to do. That has taken that document and it's linked it to that particular location for me. So we've now covered two of our apps. We've covered data validation, making sure our core data is correct, and we've gone through to document links, making sure that those records then have the documents that they need to be able to travel through the system. So that sales order at the very beginning has the information, has those documents at the stage of posting a shipment and posting the invoice. So everybody has now got all the same information that they need.
Rena, if I can just jump in there, one of the points Rena made there was regarding the storage where you store these documents. I know Bamboom did a lot around modern workplace. Most of you, if you've got an Office 365 or Microsoft 365 usage and you've got accounts for that, you will have SharePoint Online included with a level of storage space, which will inevitably be cheaper than growing your Business Central database. You obviously get storage with Business Central, but you will be charged extra once you hit that limit. So if you are dragging and putting lots and lots of documents or PDFs, my purchase orders in, the cost of that can add up on Business Central. So we would always say, look, speak to Bamboom and try and point it towards the SharePoint area. There's no major setup if you're using SharePoint Online, and it's much more cost efficient. After a period of time, a year or two in, you might be regretting trying to store it all within your database. Sorry, Rena.
It's okay. Thank you. So we'll now move on from document links to Clever Credit. So Clever Credit gives you better control of overdue balances and approaching credit limits. So it can be applied to roles such as accountant or business manager, and it puts chosen documents, for example, sales orders, on hold if a customer has an overdue balance or the sales order will put them over their credit limit. The introduction of Clever To-Dos helps to prioritise your workload and chase promised payments, which are automatically closed if the payment comes in. So there's two sides to Clever Credit. We've got the holding of the orders, where an order is still placed for that customer, but it's not progressed, because we're all about making sure that we can still take that order from the customer and that they don't look to go somewhere else, but we don't want to release it and get to the point where we're chasing them for hundreds of thousands of pounds because they're overdue on paying their invoices. And then we've got the other side of Clever Credit, which is chasing those debts. So we've put the order on hold in one point of the process, but then we're trying to chase them so we can release that order because then they're overdue on older invoices. So we'll start with the kind of sales order. So we'll keep with our customer 1000. We've already done data validation on it, so it has a credit limit. And now we're going to put an order on for that customer. We will also just quickly mention that with Clever Credit, Not all of our apps do it, but we have essentially an assisted setup. So as soon as you install the app, you'll get a notification along the top and it will go through the assisted setup. So setting up Clever Credit how you want it to do. If you don't want to go through the assisted setup, you can just go to the Clever Credit setup here and get to the points that the assisted setup would do. So going through the aging bands, setting up which documents you want to put on hold, creating your default credit controllers. We also have this document delivery bit at the bottom, which I'll mention a bit later, but this is one of the areas where our kind of apps interlink with one another. So going back into Clever Credit, we'll put our order on, so brand new order for our customer. Use the old bicycle and we'll put it on for 10. So straight away, we have a notification along the top of the screen telling us that the customer credit limit has been exceeded. I know I put 50 on there during data validation, so 10 of bicycles is obviously going to come to more than £50. So our status is currently open and our standard status will always remain the same, but we have what's called a credit status. So this is part of Clever Credit's implementation. It has the credit status just here. We'll go to our usual release process. And as soon as we try and release it, our order has been put on credit hold. So this is the first side of the app, the holding of the documents. So we've now got this document put in credit held. The order is still open. It can't be processed through. It can't be sent to be shipped, to be picked, anything like that, because it is on credit hold. You have two ways to get to that credit held document. You can go through the credit held list, which most of your credit controllers are most likely to kind of sit in, which will show you all the documents that have been credit held. So here's our one at the bottom. Or you have the option of going from the sales order to the credit held list, only showing our individual order. Either way, we're going to the credit held list. We can then see our order. Users have the option to view that order to see why it's been put on credit held, who it's been put on credit held for. All the information that we have is within this one screen for our credit controller to be able to release that document. So if they're happy to, they can release the document. They've had a word with the customer said they're going to pay, so they're happy to release that. As soon as we click the release action, it disappears from our credit held list. It goes to our credit release list, so we still have visibility. We still have tracking to see when it went onto hold to when it went on release. And now our order is credit released, and based on my setup, it has automatically released the sales order, ready for the next process, ready for the shipment, ready for the pick to be created. So with credit hold, you can also uncredit release and put it back on credit held. Sorry, the term might be a bit weird. So in our credit held list, you also have the option to go to release documents, as I said. So we've got our release documents here, and if for whatever reason the customer rings back and actually says we can't pay, you can essentially unrelease the document. So you can put it back on hold and it reverts it back. So it sets it back to open and we're still on credit held again. So you have the option of going one of two ways. The second side to kind of Clever Credit is that chasing of the debt. So we've got an order on here, we've got our customer there, and the order can't be processed through because they have outstanding balances. And we can see those outstanding balances within the Clever Credit list. So here are all our customers, and we can filter this list. So you might apply credit controllers to the list. So, you know, you have a team of 6 credit controllers, you've got 1,000 customers, you're going to split those 1,000 customers between the 6 credit controllers, and the credit controller can only therefore see their list and only work on their list. They do obviously have the flexibility to see other lists, but it may be a way for your team to kind of manage who's chasing what payments, giving only the credit controller the visibility that they need for their customers. But either way, we have our list. I've applied no filters to it. I've not given myself any customers as a credit controller, so I can see all my customers within here. You'll see that some of our customers are highlighted red. So the way we've structured this screen and created this screen is from a visibility perspective. So you can see all your customers on here, but straight away your eye is drawn to the customer in red. And this is because their debt has amounted further along, so they're aging band, so they're 120 days plus overdue. And as this figure, so say for our Canon group, moves along, the text in this field here will change. So it starts off as it is now. If it moves on to 30 days, I think it goes bold and black, and then 60 days it goes italic and blue, and so on until you get to 120 days where it's red. And at this point, this is the customer that you want to be dealing with. This is the one that's 120 days overdue. They've got a sales order on the system in credit hold. We need to chase them to pay some of that debt so that we can release that sales order. I'm going to stick with the Canon group for now, that just because they're over their credit limit. They've not got any amounts that are overdue at the minute. Oh, so I'm not going to stick with them, sorry. I'm going to move on to our 20,000 one instead because of the debt. So you've got two ways to create what we call an interaction. So an interaction is you having a conversation with the customer, chasing them on that debt, putting notes against the customer, the ledger entry in particular, to be able to find out when they're going to pay or what they're going to do about it, if they're going to pay there and then, if you called them and they're not available. So it's a way of your credit controllers to see who is dealing with what, but to pick up when other credit controllers are off ill. So I could be dealing with this customer for now, I go off 2 days later, at least maybe Liam or Renee can pick it up later on, knowing what my notes are previously in regards to this particular customer. So you can click on the ledger entries within here and you can do the action make phone call. And it starts by creating our interaction. So it's already taken most of the information from the customer card. We still have fields which we can populate later on, and it's selected the entry in which I was on in the previous screen. So it's already saying to me through the system, this is the entry that you're dealing with. I have other options. I can select multiple entries and I can put notes up here. So spoke to customer, not available. Sorry. There we go. Spelling. There we go. So we have our notes applied to our entries. So we've decided to call the customer. We've selected which entries we're going to talk about. We've applied a note against it. We come out the screen, and that interaction is now at the bottom here. So everybody has visibility, and you can see these from the customer card as well. It's not just from the Clever Credit screen. You can see the credit controller interactions. We can see what we spoke about. So I can click on this, spoke to the customer. Because I selected all 3 entries, it's the 3 entries that I've spoken to them about. If I only selected one, it would only have the one in here with any notes. You also have options to put entries against the lines themselves. So for example, I call the customer and they've decided to promised to make a payment on the 10th, and they're going to pay me £1,000 towards it. So again, I come out of the interaction. I come out of that. Should have saved it. Where are we? Sorry. There we go. And now I have my second interaction just there. So again, you have options, you have flexibility on how you want to run this, whether it's everybody seeing the whole list of the customers, so all your credit controllers seeing everybody, having visibility of everything, or if they're having a select view, only a certain amount of customers based on who they're dealing with. You've got the option of interactions. From an interaction, you can also make what's called a to-do. So a to-do allows you to then say, okay, on my list, this is the customer that's going to pay on this promise date. So rather than it being an interaction, it's a to-do, it's a follow-up. So you'd put a follow-up date against the entry. So again, next interaction date. It'll still create it as an interaction, but now I have what's called a clever credit to do. And the to do means that I'm going to follow up with the customer. If the customer was to make a payment and that payment was to be applied against the ledger entry in which my to do was against, that to do would automatically disappear from the list. So again, flexibility as to how you want to use the system. And also clever credit, you don't have to use both sides. You could just hold the documents and not look to chase payments, or you could be looking to chase payments and not hold any of your customers' documents. So we give you, as I keep saying, that flexibility to be able to use the apps as to how you want to use as much of it or as little of it as you'd like to.
Rena, there's a couple of questions popped up, and also we've had, as we all went into remote working, and I know a lot of people are still doing that, those notes make a hell of a difference. When you used to be told in the office that, you know, customer A hasn't paid us and you were aware of that, the last thing you want is your sales guys pressing and trying to sell more when someone's on hold. At least here they can have that visibility, even though they're all remote working, to see on the notes what the problem customer and try and help to resolve some of that. Couple of questions, Rena, around. I know there was one about doc links. We'll come back to that probably in a moment. But you've got, if not using the sales orders, can you select individual customers for credit hold via the customer card?
Yeah. So on our customer card, so our global settings are using the, if I can get to our customer, that would be really helpful. There we go. So at the very beginning, using the assisted setup, that's your global settings. And when I went to the Clever Credit setup page, there are your global settings. But each customer, when the app is installed, also has their own settings. So you have the option for this particular customer, for example, to maybe exclude from credit hold, or hold all overdue, or completely hold them. So each customer could have their own individual kind of setup rules compared to the rest of the all the other customers in the business that might have to say, okay, well, if it's overdue and things like that. So a lot of our customers tend to use like the grace period, for example. So they have particular customers who are, you know, like they purchase thousands upon thousands or even millions of pounds worth of orders, and they want to give them that grace period that other customers might not get, so that they can place more of those orders, so that more money can come into the business, irregardless of the fact that they haven't paid the other invoices just yet. So yes, there is flexibility.
One of the others was, can or how do you get a report or a list of the showing the promised dates for follow-ups and next interaction dates? I know you've obviously had the to-do list there, but
yeah. We don't have any reporting as such, just because everybody wants very different things when it comes to reports. So you can go, I guess, from your Clever Credit interactions. There are a few fields on there. If we zoom in, there are potentially a few more fields that are on there. So you've got the next interaction date. Oh no, that's your interaction date. Apologies. There aren't too many fields on here. You've got your interaction dates from your Clever Credit and from your to-dos. So if I go to Clever Credit to-dos, you kind of do have your due dates just here. So maybe you could use the two kind of pages, the two tables of data that are in there, and maybe create your own report using Power BI or Jet maybe. to kind of amalgamate the information that you need to be able to generate that report. As I said, we don't really tend to do reports just for a lot of these apps because everybody wants something slightly different. So trying to meet everybody's demand would be forever and a day in the longest report, which nobody really wants.
Okay, there was one more, Rena, on Clever Credit. Will it prevent users from sending the document in the standard open status?
Sending it is in emailing it, I guess is the question.
I don't know if you can clarify that, Jamie, but yes.
Well, it won't stop it from being sent unless you have, because the documents don't, with standard email, I don't think the documents have to be set as a status of released in order to be sent. But it might be answered if I can show you document delivery, which kind of links into Clever Credit. Maybe that could answer that question for you a little bit more, if that's okay. So I will show document delivery, and then we can always revisit that. So with Clever Credit, when I showed you the setup page, we have our nice little fast tab of document delivery. So this fast tab will only show up if you have document delivery installed as well as Clever Credit. But this is where we've got a nice kind of interlinking between the two apps here. So when we were in our interactions, so if I go back to Clever Credit, we have the option. So I'm on the phone to Bob, who's part of the Canon group, or this group, sorry, should I say? They have, clicking, sorry. So I'm on the phone to him. We're talking about kind of the invoices that they have to pay, and most customers will come back to you and say straight off the bat, I don't have that invoice in front of me. Can you call me back in a week's time and we can discuss it again? It's got to be frustrating for everybody in those circumstances because you know you're not going to be able to speak to him, and that's a week further on in delay of that payment. So with Clever Credit, we have, when document delivery is installed, we have a few actions at the top here. And what it allows us to do as part of the app is, Bob says to us, don't have that invoice in front of me, send it me back and we'll speak in a week's time. You say, actually, no, I'm going to send you the email instead. So we've got our options, queue email and send email. And based on our document type, it will send that document over to Bob. So he's got it in his inbox straight off the bat, and you can say to him, okay, it's in front of you, have a look at it, let's carry on talking. So you kept that interaction going with the customer. You've not got that stop start, sending emails backwards and forwards, trying to reorganize a call, and you can get this entry paid off, this issue resolved, this interaction out the way, customers paying for it, his order can then be processed through because it no longer needs to be credit held. So queue email, excuse me, will tell me that it's a posted sales invoice based on the entry that I've selected. If it's a credit, it will tell me it's a posted sales credit. It's already showing me the details, who it's going to be sending to. I have the options to change here. I can put in more email addresses, multiple email addresses, and then I click send. And queue email, what that will do is, when I show you a bit more of document delivery, we'll put it into our document delivery log, ready to be processed through as part of the job queue. Send email, we'll send it out via SMTP. So I'm just going to close this for now and leave that in there. We also have our statement. So again, the customer's saying, oh, I don't have what information you're talking about in front of you. You click statement, it will send the statement to the customer. Again, carrying on that interaction. So this is where you kind of got Clever Credit meets document delivery, and it's working for your team because that flow of communication is continual between the credit controller and the customer to get those payments made. Document delivery in itself, I personally think is a great app. I could be biased, but with document delivery, it allows us to send multiple documents to multiple people on within multiple departments. So if we go to our document delivery types, we have a range of different documents that we can send out to customers. This is installed with Clever Config. So when the app is installed, you press default config on the setup page, and the information is already populated. It puts all this straight into your system, ready to go, ready to start sending orders, ready to start sending invoices out to customers. Obviously, there's a little bit of tweaking that needs to be done, making sure it's sending out your reports, but the structure of it is already there, ready for you to kind of start using. So we'll take posted sales invoices. So the breakdown of the record is fairly simple. It's telling us which document we're sending out, which table it's going to be using. You can group fields. So you can say, if I'm selecting multiple posted sales invoices, I want it to be filtered by a particular field so that it's only sending one document out to the customer rather than multiple documents out to the customer. One email out with multiple documents rather than one email to one document. You've got your delivery structure kind of at the bottom here, so you can say what the subject is. If you're sending it out via a job queue, obviously you're sending out multiple documents, so it won't do a number field in there. You've got options to print, so this again kind of ties into Clever Print Node, which I'll speak to you about fairly soon. So it gives you the option as a user to say, okay, do you want to print all the time, or do you want to print where there's no recipient? So again, going back to Bob, he's old school, doesn't like his invoices to be sent to him, he wants them through the post, so he'll never give you an email address, but you want essentially, say, all the invoices to be sent out to the customers without Bob's holding it up. You have the option to be able to say, here are all the records, here's all the documents I want it to be sent out to. Bob's will go to a dedicated printer. Somebody will come in the morning, take those documents, put them in an envelope and send it out to him. So again, keeping that flow going, not stopping it because one record can't be sent to a particular customer. You've got your reports at the bottom here. So this is where I talk about the slight tweaking that you might have to do, changing the report to meet maybe your bespoke reports that you might have. It's obviously set up to use the standard report at the minute. And then we have kind of the field mapping just at the bottom here. If I shrink some of these so we can see. Here we go. So the field mapping is telling us where we're picking information up from, not just for sending, but also when it comes to the body of the email. So your body of the email pretty much picks up the information for you, so you're not having to individually type each email that you're sending out. You have the flexibility to be able to do that, but if you're just running it on a batch job, you don't want to be asking Phyllis about how the kids are doing. You just want to send out a general email to everybody saying, this is what it is, here's the batch job, send it out, jobs are good. And the one field that you do need to be wary about is obviously our to field. So the to field is where is it going to pick up that email from? And we do like a hierarchy thing when it comes to some of the setup. So the hierarchy is it will look to a particular bespoke table that we've created, which I'll show you in a second. It will look to see if there's an email in there. Can't find an email in there, it will then look to our contacts. It will look to the field on that contact card. Can't find an email in there, it will look to the customer card, look to the email field, try to find a bit of data in there. Obviously, if it gets to the bottom of the hierarchy and it can't do anything, then it will error, whether it's sent out individually or on the job queue to say no recipient has been found. But again, that's where Clever Print Node comes in, because you don't want it to error, you want it to just print out a document and deal with that separately. So this can all be changed. You can put, if you've got bespoke fields, you know, you've got the option to put those in. So if you've got a particular bespoke email field, you have the option for document delivery to look at that rather than the standard fields. But as I said, Clever Config will always put in the standard setup, and then it's for you guys if you want to tweak and change it as and where you'd like to. You've got options for password protecting. So everybody gets, you know, the payslip via email nowadays. You all need it password protected. Same goes for posted sales invoices. You might be sending that out to the finance guy. He doesn't want anybody else to be reading those emails to see those documents, so you can password protect it. So as long as he has the password, he can open up that document and he can see the information in that particular report. Again, doesn't have to be across the board, doesn't have to be for every customer either. Some customers might want their documents password protected, other customers might not. Flexibility is key when it comes to these apps. So the extra document delivery setup. So favorite customer. And you can find it. Document delivery, custom settings, and custom values. So the great thing about custom values is we all have customers where they've got departments within them. So most customers will give you a generic email, and that's where all the documents are being sent to. But it's about getting the right person to deal with the right document when it gets sent. So with custom values, it allows you to kind of split out each of the document types, making sure it gets to the right person within that business. So we've chosen customer 10,000. We're going to say the purchase orders are going to go to me. But we're going to say within the same business, the posted sales invoices are going to go to my husband. So what we've done is we've said within this business, we've got 2 different departments, and the 2 different documents for this customer are going to go to those 2 different departments. So the right people are dealing with those right documents, and they're the ones that are getting back to you. It's not it's not a case of posted sales invoices are coming to me and then I'm having to pass them on to him or pass them on to somebody else who then has to deal with it. And that chain will extend. You want a quick, instant reaction from the person that receives that document, and the way to do it is to kind of split it out using the custom values aspect of it. One final thing around document delivery is our test mode, which is, I think, it's a nice little mode to enable. And the test mode enabled allows you to install the app within your production environment, but not send the documents to the actual customers. So it allows you to test the functionality with your data, but not send it to the customers, and instead send it to a test account. So for example, I put this in here at TecMan.co.uk, and any document that I select, so posted sales invoices, or any customer actions, document delivery. Oh, one thing to remember, document delivery functionality is under the document delivery tab. It's not to be confused with the standard Microsoft send by email. Ours is called send email. Based on highlighting a record, no email account defined because of my setup, but we can see here who the recipient is going to be. So all the emails, all the documents will go to that test mode account. So it allows you to check everything, make sure your setup is okay, make sure your email bodies are okay before you actually switch off test mode and it start using actual customers' email addresses to send the documents out to. Right, so that's 4 apps covered. We're now on to Clever Print Node. So I mentioned Clever Print Node very briefly. Clever Print Node allows you to kind of, with document delivery especially, it will allow you to print those documents to a dedicated printer using the Print Node service. So it kind of goes from BC to Print Node and then to your printer based on the setup, to then be able to print those documents out. So when we're talking about kind of Clever Print Node, it's used as kind of sending with document delivery mainly, but it can be used in other areas of Business Central. So in particular with the newer versions, print node printers, which are installed on the print node kind of application, are then visible to be used as part of printer selections. So with Business Central, it gives you kind of more flexibility with printing compared to that of kind of plugging in a printer next to your desktop client and printing locally. Finally, we'll move on to global search. So we've used our customer throughout. He's gone through data validation, through to document links, clever credit, document delivery, and now the final bit is global search. So with global search, it's in the name, it searches all your records across the system. It requires a template to be created. So global search. And you create the templates based on what you want to search for. So I've created a simple template looking for an email address. And the reason I'm looking for an email address is because I want to use global search to obfuscate the data. And obfuscating the data is essentially masking that data. So this is used across the board kind of in GDPR areas where you might be masking kind of customers' email addresses so no material can be sent to them via marketing or those aspects of it. So we have kind of on customer table 18, we're looking at our email address, we're searching all these fields, and all we want to say to the system is clever global search, search Canon Group, for example, and it's going to come back to me with any matching text that I've typed in. So here's what I'm searching for, but it's going to primarily find me the field that I want to at the beginning, which is the email address. And from this screen, I'm then able to go into the record. I can obfuscate the data, puts an input mask against it, so no one can see that particular customer's email address. The obfuscated data is held in a record in the background, so you can see what it was to what it is now, but to users visibly, they wouldn't be able to see that field. And that's it. I know I've babbled a little bit and run through quite a bit.
That's brilliant, Rena. Thank you. Again, a quick question on document delivery. Jack has asked if we can batch send customer statements. You can batch send statements, invoice. I know we've got one customer that we've used as one of the cases that they used to send 450 invoices every month, and it used to take them about 5 hours to do that manually in terms of sending each email. They now do it in under 5 minutes with document delivery. It just batches them out. So, and you can attach different attachments to those, can't you? I know we've had invoice.
So with document delivery, so for example, posted sales invoices, you might want to attach the terms and conditions, and that can be created one of two ways. It can be an individual attachment, so every user gets their posted sales invoices and the terms and conditions, 2 attachments, 1 email, or you could merge the documents together, so your users are only getting 1 document, but 1 email, 1 document, but essentially 2 different attachments. So you'd have the invoice at the beginning, terms and conditions at the back. Statements is a great one in terms of running for, you know, the batch jobs, for example. As Liam said, you know, customers are able to just select the records Friday night, clicked queue email, job queue runs overnight, those are sent out over the weekend. Come Monday morning, they've got maybe a mini pile of documents that didn't send but are in the printer. They can deal with those rather than having to look at the job queue and find it stopped at record 10 out of 40,000, for example.
The other thing we do with DocuSign, with document delivery, we link it to an e-signature service called the SureSign. So if you wanted to send something out and you needed to have a signature on that, an electronic signature, we do work with the SureSign. You sort your own accounts out with those guys, but it will allow you to have those going out and getting an e-signature back. Couple of questions, Rena, on the search, global search. Can you search by a contact name or search by address?
Yes. So it's all about the setup. So if we go back to global search, so So it's all about what you want to search for. So what is your key record? So if you're looking at so you might want to do the contact list rather than the customer list, for example, and then what fields within the contact list you want to search for. You've got a number of fields at the bottom here. So based on the table we selected, what fields is it searching against as well? So we're not only saying, okay, we're looking at the customer, we're looking at all these fields against it to find that one particular entity. It does use wildcards as well, I forgot to mention, so stars either side kind of thing. So if you only know part of something that you're searching for, it will do that as well.
Perfect, thank you. I hope that answered that, Chrissy and Annette, but if you've got any more questions, feel free to fire them in the chat. All of the apps are available on AppSource. I'm sure Bamboo can help you navigate around that. They're all fairly simple to install. There are some links, I think, at the end of the slide, and I'll also stick them in the chat, obviously, for the Clever Dynamics website. We have a docs site, which gives you more technical information. So it's got user guides and setup installation information, all that type of stuff. And then there's a YouTube link, which if you go to our playlists, you'll see all the apps, and then they're broken down into like 2-3 minute videos with different parts of the functionality per app, so you can see them. Chrissy, you asked a question right at the top. I think that was regarding document links. And Rena, that was the document links question, was can you attach invoices to purchase orders and invoices?
Invoices to purchase orders. So a sales invoice to a purchase order.
Is that right, Chrissy? Is that, have we understood that? Should just type in, Rena, sorry.
It's okay. Lost the slide anyway, sorry guys. Let me get that back on.
I've done that in the chat as well, so that's okay. A purchase order, sorry, so she's put a purchase invoice against a purchase order.
Oh, okay, so you want I've never done a record to a record. It's one maybe I can have a look at. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can find the answer out to that. That's not a problem.
You might have seen as well, when we were going through the other parts of the demo, those the document links Dropbox, as we call it, was available on plenty of the pages that that were there. I think on some of the Clever Credit stuff, you could have drag and dropped promises to pay, emails, or people doing that as a record as well. Okay, good. We'll find out. We'll pass that on to Renee, and I'm sure she can forward that on to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not a problem at all. So just for me to wrap up, obviously, thank you so much, Rena and Liam, for presenting with us today, and thank you for everyone for attending. Just want to remind everyone that the session has been recorded, so if there is anything that you kind of want to recap on, that will be available on the site, and we'll send the recording link out to everyone that's attended today. We'll also send a feedback form to everyone that's attended, just to get some feedback on the session, and if you have enjoyed it and you're an existing client with us, please feel free to get in touch with your client success manager here. And if any new clients are also interested in getting in touch with us, we do have contact details on the screen that Rena is presenting for us now. And my name's Renee if you need anyone to refer to. Just want to make everyone aware that we do have 2 separately hosted webinars next week, which will be for PopDoc and Tasklet. So if I don't see any of you before, I hope to see you there. And thank you very much.
I just see there's another question popped up in there from Shannon. I don't fully understand this, but does this work with dunning letters? I don't know if that's my ignorance on dunning letters. Is that something anyone else?
I've not heard of dunning letters.
I think we have one client that uses it. I can follow up with Shannon afterwards.
Oh, reminder letters. You can send out reminders using document delivery. Yes.
Any questions? Sorry, any questions that we haven't got round to, we will send a follow-up email with all the frequently asked questions and attach them to the recording on the website as well. So if there are any that we have missed, or if people want to keep posting them in the chat, if you do have any further queries, obviously just let us know, and we can get back to you on those ones as well.
Well, thanks for having us anyway. It's been great to
present.
Any more questions come through, just let us know and we'll do